right, I will call to order tonight's regular town council meeting. We're in the Manor. Today is February 27th, Monday. The time is now 6 p.m. Ms. Nurse, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilman McKenrick?
Here.
Councilman Griffin? Councilman Bowman?
Present.
Councilman Brock?
Yep.
Mayor Franklin?
I'm here, thank you. And Ms. Nurse, where's the notification and posting of this meeting agenda accomplished in accordance with state law?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman, before you is the agenda. I'll be looking for a motion to approve or amend the agenda as needed.
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend we move item 6, executive session, to item 3. And then everything else stay in the same order.
Second.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to move that item. Any other changes?
Question, rationale?
Just because I think it's a better use of what we may be discussing in executive session.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, the change will be made. Do you want to do the pledge?
I will, sir.
Please join Councilman Ballman for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in prayer. Father, my God, I just come to you this evening giving you thanks for who you are. Father, I do thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us. Father, I just ask your presence now in this meeting. I pray that all that we say and do brings honor and glory to you. I ask you to guide our discussions tonight. Father, I thank you for the crowd that is here. I ask your blessings upon them, those that are at home. Father, I pray for our men and women in our military, those that are on the front lines protecting our very freedoms today, and those that are back home. Father, I pray for our first responders. I pray you keep them safe as they go about their daily duties. Father, I ask all this in the precious name of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone here tonight and everyone watching from home. We appreciate your attendance. We will proceed with council member remarks. We'll start with Councilman McHenry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thanks for everybody who's joining us tonight. Look forward to receiving the reports that are on our agenda. Welcome to everybody joining us via YouTube, and it's always nice to see the change of season in Blythewood, people out and about in the park walking, and trees blooming and flowers changing, and look forward to seeing if the weather holds up for Rib Fest this weekend. I don't believe I'd be putting my money on the Chamber's weather forecasting ability right now, but I'm certainly hoping for good weather. Hope everybody comes out and enjoys that. And Mr. Mayor, due to the lengthy agenda, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. Welcome, everybody, and welcome everybody at home. I, too, want to just say that I hope the weather on the 10th and the 11th for our Doco Meadows Rib Fest, or Doco Rib Fest, is going to be good this year. We could use good weather for any event here in the park. Sorry that our opening ceremonies at the baseball field were canceled this weekend on Saturday due to inclement weather, but I was very pleased that my veterans organization hung a new 4x6 flag over there on Friday just for the ceremony, but it'll be up there the whole season. And we took we didn't have an old one to take down, but we did go to Ridgeway Fire Department and replace theirs too, and took theirs down because it was tattered, and we will retire it in June on Flag Day and give it the respect that it deserves. But, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to welcome everyone here tonight and everyone here at home. I don't really have many remarks, so I'll just pass it over to you.
Thank you. Move to mayor's remarks. I'll be brief. If we do reschedule opening ceremonies at the Blythewood Baseball Park, we will let the public know, of course. So it was unfortunate, but it's the right call sometimes. Instead of getting young kids out there in the rain, sometimes you got to make those decisions. I would just, as a public advisory, the Langford Road crossing here at Main Street will be closed tomorrow, and that's from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're trying to get that word out as broadly as possible. Because the railroad has to replace those ties underneath that road. They're usually finished within half a day to a day, so we anticipate that will be open after 5 p.m. Special thanks to the Blythewood Historical Society Museum. I see their president is here, Malcolm Gorge, for the Black History Month events. They did it over several weekends in the month instead of just one event. A lot of times people travel. This year we had an opportunity to go on several weekends and see some noted African-American authors and participate in our museum's history. So we appreciate that. And as a couple of council members already said, the Rib Fest, March 10th and 11th, hope to see you there. If you haven't attended one in the past, please put it on your calendar Friday night or Saturday all day and come out and enjoy that. It's a great event, a good turnout here in the park, and we're praying for good weather for that. Councilman Griffin, sir, your remarks. I apologize, you just walked in.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologize for my tardiness as a government employee. I'm still on West Coast time dealing with some stuff. So great to see everyone. I know I missed a few meetings, but federal disaster work never ends. So I'm a national asset now, not a regional, so they can send me anywhere in the country whenever they so desire. But I'm glad to be here, blessed to be here, blessed for no issues such as some of the other states I'm dealing with. But I'm happy to see each and every one of you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We'll move to the town administrator's report. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things on Wednesday. This coming up Wednesday, the Blythewood Historical Society Chair, Malcolm Gorge, is going to meet with the designer, Rick McMacken, on the Combat Veterans Memorial. So we're moving forward on that. Very exciting project that's moving to fruition. On Monday, March 6th, Kelly McCormick from Kenda Keys Collaborative will be visiting Blythewood for her initial visit as our consultant to rewrite the zoning ordinance, and then she'll attend the Planning Commission that evening, and I hope that everyone from council can attend that as well. And then on the following Wednesday and Thursday, March 8th and 9th, we set up several Zoom meetings with several stakeholders across the town for her to get a feel for the town and the community and what they are looking for and what they need out of the land use ordinance. And we're finally able to move forward on applying for a grant for the pedestrian fence across I-77 on Blythewood Road. That grant is through the Central Midlands Council of Governments, and it's an 80-20 match, and there are funds allocated for this expenditure in the current budget, and the grant's due March 22nd. So we'll be working on that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Council member questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Williamson, what is the status of our gates on McLean and Sandfield Road?
The electrician is very short-handed, but he has told us that he will be here tomorrow and Wednesday. So that is what we are waiting on. But he said he's just very stretched, very thin, and that's been the holdup.
How about the turf at the playground?
The turf has been delayed with the wet. There's been so much rain, but we check in with him regularly, and he keeps putting us off a couple of weeks, but we're pushing on him. So,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
Okay, part I tonight, approval of minutes, and we have 3 packets of minutes to approve. The town council regular meeting on January 23rd, the special call meeting on February 6th, and the special call meeting on February 13th. Please, the council will be looking for a motion to approve or amend as needed.
Make a motion to approve all 3.
Second.
It's been probably motion and seconded to approve all 3 of the aforementioned meeting minutes. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Thank you. Part 2 tonight, it's my pleasure to nominate Mr. Bill Tomes to the Planning Commission to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Marty Wells. I'll let him come up and say a few words, sir. I had breakfast with Mr. Tomes. Has an impressive curriculum vitae, which is in your packet. Undergraduate work at Florida State University and master's degree at University of South Carolina, so we have a Gamecock amongst us. So without further ado, Mr. Tomes, can you just tell the council a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Again, Bill Tomes, and I live on Syrup Mill Road, just before you get to the Fairfield County line. with my wife and 3 horses. And I've been there for 25 years, been in the town limits for about 3 years. We were annexed about 3 years ago, and when we actually requested that. I was telling the mayor, this is the first time that I've ever lived within municipal boundaries, so an opportunity to get involved, I had to wait until this time to do that. I'm retired from the University of South Carolina's Public Policy Institute. I was the Director of Governmental Services. We provided training and consulting services to state and local government agencies across the state. After one day of retirement, I didn't like it, so I did contract work for 8 years for the College of Charleston's Riley Center for Livable Communities. That's their public policy institute. And on January 1st, I actually became a full-time employee, and they call me an executive in residence, although I'm still residing here, not in Charleston. So we do the same thing. We provide leadership training, management training, and consulting services to state agencies, local government agencies, and nonprofit agencies across the state.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank you for volunteering. That's the,
Looking forward to it.
sir, thank you. Council members. Questions or comments?
Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Absolutely. Very impressive resume, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Please, Councilman Griffin.
there's no further comments. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Been probably motion and seconded to approve the appointment of Mr. Bill Tomes to the Blythewood Planning Commission. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Welcome, Mr. Tomes, and thank you. Look forward to working with you. Part 3 tonight is a presentation. First,
Executive session.
oh, that's right, we did move it. My apologies. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
And probably motion is seconded to adjourn to executive session. Will be as brief as possible. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We'll be right back. I will call us back to order in open session. And I was remiss earlier, apologize, we just met in executive session per South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70 for the discussion of proposed lease of real property by the town. So we've reconvened. Council, do we have any items requiring a vote following executive session?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman McHenry.
I would move to authorize the execution by the town of Blythewood of a 7-year lease agreement between the town of Blythewood as the leasee and the Blythewood Facilities Corporation as the leaseor for parcels A and B of real property under those further terms as discussed in executive session, as stated in the written lease agreement, the form of which is subject to further revision and modification with approval of the mayor, the town administrator, and the town attorney.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and seconded to enter into the lease agreement for those two parcels of property. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you. Part 4 tonight, presentations. Part A is Mr. Gary Bailey of Love Bailey and Associates, Blythewood Financial Audit, year-end June 30th, 2022. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Mayor, council members. It's good to see you again. So we finished up the 22 audit. Apologize, some scheduling conflicts. So we'd have been here earlier because we finished the audit up a while back. But because of that thing called COVID, we've been presenting financials to municipalities when we're presenting with a 3-year look back, just to kind of let you see how the town has done over the last 3 years. Because as you remember, the last quarter of 20 was the first quarter of COVID, and then 21 had COVID, and then we're kind of getting out of it here, hopefully, to some degree, at least back to normal in 22. So this kind of gives you an idea of, because revenues were affected, expenses were affected, but this kind of lets you see how the town has done over the last 3 years. So before I go over that, I will just point out that we did issue an unqualified opinion on the audit, which is a clean opinion, which is the opinion the town wants to receive. We didn't have any findings. Really, as we've done the audit, you have a good staff, you have good controls in place, good oversight in place, so we don't have any issues. When we come in, everything we request has always been available to us. There's never been any issues there. So we don't have any findings or any recommendations on changes within the financial department. So if you'll look here at this first page, this would be general fund and the Manor, since those are sort of combined at the end of this past fiscal year. I decided to let you see what they look like together. So that's what I'm doing here. I put BFC. I apologize. I meant to put Manor there, not BFC. But you can see over your last 3 years, you can see 22 there ended up with 2.7 million in revenue, which is a significant jump from 21, which was 2.2 million. 20 was 2.1. Big jump there was state revenue. Big increase in lost funds coming in this past year. You did have a decrease in business license, but if I remember correctly, 21 had one big out of town business. I think there was some big construction going on that generated a big business license, because you can see 22 business licenses are very close to the way 20 was in that 225, 238 range. Franchise fees, fairly close to last year, down a little bit. Then all your other revenues lumped in there, and then rental fees. But you can see overall your revenues are up $481,000 in the general fund from 21 to 22. And then you drop down to the next section there, which is the operating expenditures. Another thing we've done, the reason financial statements, because we are preparing them according to GASB, sometimes doesn't show you what I think is really important, which is cash flow. And so what I'm doing here is, if you notice, there's an operating income line right there in the middle. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, if you took all your revenues and you took your operating expenditures before you invest in capital outlay, before you pay debt service, just on basic operations, is the town cash flowing? Very important question that you need answered. And as you can see, the town generated over $1 million of operating cash flow this past year, which then allows you to invest in more capital outlay. I think you invest a lot in parks this past year, and then also continue to pay down the debt service that the town has. But overall, you can see your expenses were up about $100,000 from 21 to 22. Most of that was Manor-related expenses. Your overall payroll was actually down. Payroll and benefits was down about $8,000 from 21 to 22. And if you look there at the bottom, you'll see sort of your main categories of your expenditures. You can see that payroll takes about 55% of your total operating expenditures. In your case, that's actually a little bit lower. Most of the towns we see are more in the 65 to 70% of total payroll costs. So you're kind of operating with a little bit less manpower and still being very efficient. So, but you also have some outsourced service contracts. So some of it that you might not have on payroll, you're then outsourcing some of that labor. So you can see your next category is about 12%. So if you put those together, you're getting into that 66, 67% and that's kind of about where we see a lot of municipalities. And then just overall repairs, maintenance, landscape, it's about 5%, telephone utilities, about 7%. So you can see just those four categories is roughly 80% on most years, roughly 80% of your total operating cost. I've jumped around a little bit, but you can see in that other uses and sources category, you had some capital outlay. You spent $159,000. Debt service, that's principal and interest, was $318,000. Some of that is accommodation tax and hospitality tax transfers a few funds over to help offset some of that debt. And then you had the ARPA funds that you recognized this year. You received more than the $195,000. But you only recognize what you actually spent. So overall, you had a positive change in fund balance of over $1 million, which was double what last year's, what 21's change in fund balance was. If you flip to the next page real quickly, you'll kind of see just a breakdown of your payroll and benefits of the town. And that's what I was saying. Your overall payroll and benefits in 21 was $893, and fiscal year 22 was $886. Roughly, you have about a 30% increase in the cost of labor for benefits, health insurance, taxes, those kind of things. So, easy math, if you hired somebody for $100, you're really going to pay them $130. So I just wanted to just kind of show you that just as council, you can kind of see some of the cost breakdown there. And then the next page, and I'm kind of going quickly, so if you have a question, just stop me. But the next page you'll see is your balance sheet. And the first line there is unrestricted cash, which has grown the last couple of years. It's up to $4.3 million in unrestricted cash. That, based on your operating expenditures, that's about 32 months of operating expenditures. So the GFOA, Governmental Financial Officers Association, they suggest a minimum of 3 months. We usually tell folks we like at least 6 months because a lot of times revenues flow in 6-month windows. You're not property taxes, but a lot of municipalities will have property taxes collecting. So you're a great sign of financial strength, and I know a lot of that fund, a good portion of it's sitting down in investment funds in Columbia, so earning some interest. The next line is the restricted cash for the general fund. That's your ARPA funds that you hadn't spent as of 6/30/22. Then you also have $1.7 million restricted cash in accommodations and hospitality tax. And as you see, those numbers have grown. You've been spending, but some of that has grown just because you didn't have a whole lot of tourism during some of the COVID years. So some of your cash has grown because, like a lot of towns, they had to cut back on things, and some of that started to pick back up in fiscal year 22. Overall, you'll see down at the bottom there's a quick ratio 14.89. What that's telling you is the town has roughly $15 of current assets for every $1 of current liability, which is a great sign of financial strength. It's been in that range the last 3 years. I mean, you kind of think that really does show that you're just not carrying a lot of short-term, other than your bond, you're just not carrying a lot of short-term liabilities. You pay the bills when they come due. When you see that number get smaller and smaller, or even a negative, then that tells you that the town is pushing accounts payable to the point they're behind on payables. You don't have that issue here. And overall, you have a fund balance of $8.8 million, which increased about $1.2 million from the previous year. Again, really good sign of financial strength. Unfortunately, a lot of municipalities, that unassigned balance there is a negative because of the pension that you've had to record, the retirement pension. And you can see yours is a 1.08 as your allocation on that pension, about the same as it was in 21. Your bond has went down, of course, for the principal payments that you made in 22. And then that deferred revenue number of 869, much larger than last year. Most of that is the ARPA dollars. And then the last page I wanted to share with you is just how the hospitality and accommodations tax have done over the last 3 years. So it's that last page. And you'll see that you can really see how coming out of COVID has changed. So, I mean, that's basically people are in your town and they're spending money and they're eating and they're staying at places. So you can see it went from $615,000 in fiscal year 20 up to $923,000 in fiscal year 22. And I could see that. I was telling one gentleman that when I came in, you have such a nice park, and the first thing I noticed was the amount of people playing kids on the park, people walking on the trails, and also the traffic coming off of 77. But you can see, I mean, the town has grown a lot, and you can see that occurring here in this accommodation and hospitality tax. And then you can see where you're spending the money on tourism. It about doubled from 21 to 22, but still generating $463,000 of operating cash, and of course, $220,000 of that gets used to help offset some of the bond payments. So overall, I mean, really the town has done really well coming out of COVID. The processes are in good order. I think you have good controls in place, and you have a very strong, financially strong balance sheet. So, as you know, that's a lot of cash, but depending on what project you may do and how much the town has to put in on some of those projects, that money can go very quickly. You know, a road or some other project can eat up $1 million pretty fast nowadays. And so, I'm not saying that the town has a free pass to go spend a bunch of money, but as you know, I mean, you talk about these projects are expensive that you move on, but you're doing really well. You've done really well over the last 3 years, and so we don't have any recommendations. You've done a good job. Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
It's kind of a lot of information. Sorry.
I want to say thank you publicly to Miss Julie Emery. She does our finances and does a fantastic job, and every year since I've been mayor, it gets better and better because of her meticulous attention to detail.
Yes,
So
yeah.
thank you, Julie. Yes. Comments, Councilmember?
Mr. Bailey, thank you.
Sir.
And Mr. Williamson, thank you. Julie, y'all keep the town straight. Like I said, we are very fortunate to have the staff that we have here.
Do a good job. Y'all have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Part B tonight, Ms. Miriam Atria, with the President and CEO of Capital City Lake Murray Country, is here to present. Mr. Williamson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yep. As you know, Capital City Lake Murray Country is currently providing marketing specifically for the town as town's use of state accommodations tax funds, and she's come here tonight to provide another report on our marketing efforts in the last few months, and we have a video too. Thank you.
Yes, we'd like to start off with our national television ad we produced, and many of you may not have seen it yet, and this is your time to see one portion of how we're promoting the town of Blythewood. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mayor Franklin and members of Town of Blythewood Council, thank you for this opportunity. I also brought along with me this evening our Vice President of Marketing, Micah Decker, and she has passed out some information for you. We are going to share with you all the time on the last page of one of your handouts is a QR code, so you have the television ad immediately available to you at any time by scanning that code. We wanted to take just a few minutes to kind of go over some things that we've done for the progress that we are having, and it's all good news. We are investing your dollars wisely to get the biggest bang for the buck. The main thing, of course, as we have taken this journey is the importance that our staff and the town of Blythewood staff has in communications. And our staff is working with Anya and Christy and many of the others, Mr. Williams, on an as-needed basis for monthly meetings to communicate our ideas, planning social media schedules, billboard, digital ads, print ads, et cetera, so that we deliver the best results for the town of Blythewood. We also at that time addressed any specific questions and any misunderstandings or miscommunications that might be made during those meetings. And we are spending more and more time on getting into the meat of suggestions that we feel would be beneficial from the tourism marketing perspective for the town. Looking forward to an upcoming Zoom meeting with the town to provide some even further input. We have provided these handouts today. You will see in some of the magazines your new ads that have been distributed across our state of South Carolina in the State of South Carolina Visitor Guide, as well as our regional visitor guide. Remember, visitors don't think of an area with borders. They think of what is there to do in that place, what is there to see, and where can I go? So we emphasize this strongly in our television ad that this region is very blessed with a lot to do and a lot to see. And we are trying every day in everything that we do to bring the assets of the town of Blythewood into those conversations. I think initially, one of the first things we did is we introduced a digital board on I-77. Now we have entered into an annual contract. That bill alone is $20,000. So keep in mind as we go down this road together and through this journey together that we are taking a lot of your dollars and we're matching those dollars with state dollars, therefore extending the bottom line price tag and result of your marketing plan. As of today, 14.4 million travelers have seen the digital board out there on 77. Showcase to date, we have the brand of Visit Blythewood SC URL, DOCO Rib Fest, the Blythewood Rodeo, Oktoberfest, and of course golf, which we know is strong for your area. We've hosted some meetings already here in the facility, and one in particular was the South Carolina Welcome Center banquet. We had the town of Blythewood staff here to meet, the 9 tourism South Carolina Welcome Center staff, so that they could see the beautiful facility that you do have here. There are frontline people that are traveling our interstates that get off and say, well, we're traveling through Columbia, or we're coming out of Charlotte, and they're the ones helping to make these recommendations on that great barbecue that y'all have around here. We have invested recently, we have just signed a contract for Route Res, which is a hotel reservation system. This will help us increase guest spending as well as provide real-time results in bookings. We will be able to pull up and look into the future a week out of the hotels, for instance, in Blythewood. How many rooms have been booked? This is real time. This isn't after an event, et cetera. And that enables us to adjust our social media plans and get with your staff and say, we got to pump this up, or we're doing great, or very much a tool that we have been missing out on. And remember what I said, our organization is investing in the town of Blythewood. This alone is $30,000 annually for us to do. It will be a true regional outlook on all hotel bookings. We have chosen Route Res as we see it as the best hotel reservation system, and it does and will capture in-depth data. We're reaching out to various individuals in your community. Micah's doing a fantastic job on that through be it our podcast, history, et cetera, to keep your town on camera. We want your town to be the storytellers, the people in your community to do the storytelling of all that Blythewood offers. The brand, the art, the message, and the products of the town of Blythewood will be repeated over and over and marketed over and over and consistently messaging. And that's the nail that hammer will drive for the town of Blythewood. And now I'd like to turn it over to Micah for some more information.
Miriam. Hello, Councilman. How are you? So I'm just going to take you through the packet over here. I prepared a slideshow for you and walk you through some of the numbers. Of course, you can review the rest of it at your leisure. But to date, when searching for Blythewood on LakeMurrayCountry.com has yielded up close to 10,000 page views on our website in the past year. And over 75% of those views were new viewers, meaning new eyeballs on the town of Blythewood looking for things to do. I've included some helper text in there for you to be able to understand what some of these numbers are. And those people that are looking at the pages are staying on the pages for an average of over 3 minutes, which is an extremely long amount of time. I mean, just think of how long you're looking at web pages on your phone or on your desktop. Industry average for the travel industry is close to 60 seconds. So these people are actually consuming this content and we're telling the right stories. We're close to, we're not close, we're at 17.5 thousand social media referrals, meaning the posts that we're posting on social media through our various platforms are linking back to our website. And any of those that had a reference to Blythewood, I did a search term for it, are coming back to our website. So those saw 17.5 thousand social media referrals. Now, events do really, really well on our website. People are typically looking for things to do in the area. And on the next slide, you'll see the top performing pages. And it's no surprise to me that the top performing pages for Blythewood are the Rock and Red, White, and Blue celebration, your big fireworks festival. And I do want to add that this year, SCPRT, the Discover South Carolina guide you have there, for their 4th of July picture this year, it was the town of Blythewood. So that was pretty special. Oktoberfest, Doco Rodeo, the Christmas Parade, the Fall Festival, all of those events are trending really well on our social media. So on to our next slide. If you want to turn the page, you can kind of see just a snapshot of what some of the pages referencing Blythewood on our website look like. You'll see the Visit Blythewood ad. you'll see the town of Blythewood's listing. And again, I'm meeting with Anya regularly to make sure that those listings are up to date, we have good photography, and so on and so forth. So as you continue, no website is complete without a good Google search listing. We put a lot of money and effort into Google. Over 141,000 impressions have been generated on Google for the town of Blythewood. And that's the amount of times that you've shown up when somebody is searching for, it could be anywhere near me. They could type in a restaurant near me and could be driving down the interstate. It's gonna populate. Close to 8,000 clicks on the website, on Google for any of those listings that mention Blythewood. And those are going directly to our website to then market the town of Blythewood. Now, this number really is impressive to me as a marketer, but over 5% click-through rate is enormous. Again, just like that 3-minute time spent on a page, over 5% is an amazing stat, meaning that the people that are seeing the ad, the Google ad on Google, are actually clicking it and going to the correct page. So that means we're serving the ads to the right people and they are consuming the content that they're asking for, i.e. it's working. Again, I gave you a listing of the top landing pages per Google search results. Again, no surprise, Doco Radio, both the fall and the spring in this past year. Visit Blythewood, the Christmas parade, and Blythewood Park. And as you keep going through the packet, our paid marketing campaign consists of the Google Ads, which we are investing a considerable amount of money in. We've also invested quite a bit of money into golf packages of South Carolina. And as you go through, you can see some of what these landing pages look like. Golf packages alone sends out email blasts to 50,000 subscribers that are opted in, that are active and actually looking for golf packages. Last year, we booked 335 rounds of golf here in Blythewood, and this year already, 200 packages have already been booked. And as you continue to flip through your packet, you can see that we brought a media tour here of golf riders in the fall. Those stories are starting to come to fruition, and we'll be able to tell a more broader story of what that yielded. I've also included some snapshots of what the billboard looks like on I-77. A few of you, we only have a couple copies of the Discover South Carolina guide, but you can see the dedicated Blythewood ad. And then we also incorporated Blythewood into our advertorial itinerary for the region. Feature content, I'm working with Anya to make sure that we're telling stories about Blythewood from native folks from Blythewood. We had our podcast where we explored Lake Murray Country's rich history, and we interviewed Wade Dorsey with the Blythewood Historical Society. He told some really wonderful stories. I hope you've had a chance to listen to it. We can send it to you if you haven't. Blythewood has also been listed in our 30 Murray events for Christmas, for Have a Murray Christmas, and our top 10 things to do with falling in love with Lake Murray Country. So again, we really look forward to what this next year has forward and continuing to bring this additional value to the town of Blythewood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, one thing we did not mention is that we are getting ready to contract with the Golf Shop radio show, and we are going to be really pumping up on media out of Charlotte. But he has, we included this in your handout, I believe, a talk show about golf, and we know that having the experts on always helps, and so that's our goal with that mission. That's going to be an expensive venture for us to represent your golf to the tune in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $15,000 on top of everything we've previously mentioned. We're here for you. We love the town of Blythewood. You definitely have a hidden jewel here, and our job is to get the word out, and we're trying to do our best with that. But let's keep the lines of communication open, and let's talk. We can be reached by email, Miriam at lakemurraycountry.com or Micah at lakemurraycountry.com. Anything that we can help you with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Questions, council members, remarks? Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. Fantastic presentation. Thank you for what you're doing for Blythewood. Moving to another presentation tonight, Part C, Michael Green of Richland County Transportation Department to discuss the Blythewood Road widening project. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Green is the project manager for the Blythewood Road widening project and has come here tonight to give an update to council and answer any questions you have. And he's also brought several folks from parish partners who are the consultants on the project. I'll turn it over to Mr. Green.
Good evening, Councilman. Like you said, my name is Michael Green. I'm with Richland County Transportation, here to talk about the Blythewood Road widening project. I have a display over on the right. I think we can move it if you can't see it. But I wanted to start off by reading project description. Richland County Transportation desires to widen Blythewood Road from the intersection of I-77 to the intersection with Syrup Mill Road, approximately 0.8 miles. The existing facility is currently 2 lanes and will be widened to 4 lanes with a 15-foot center turning median and a 10-foot wide concrete shared use path with curb and gutter on both sides of Blythewood Road. In addition, the project will entail the construction of a multi-lane roundabout at the entrance of Cobblestone Park. So that's a brief description. I'll open it up to questions. If there are any questions on the project?
Councilmember questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Mr. Green, I want to publicly thank you. We had several meetings with you and your team, and I want the public to know, I asked for a certain detailed information. I wanted council to be updated on a regular basis with the best information possible. And please send it back to your team. I'm telling you, thank you publicly because you guys upheld that request from me and been sending that out to us every quarter or as things change. That's been very helpful to us, that when we get asked questions about what's going on with the roads, where are we, and that report is very detailed. So thank you, and please continue that effort because we have plenty more road projects.
Yes, sir, we will continue.
Other questions, council members?
Mr. Mayor, I got one more. I think we talked about it, but we didn't have a definite detail on it. In the center of the roundabout, what options were presented as far as, I think I brought up something that says the town of Blythewood, maybe the tree, or tree planted or bronze type tree, something that says Blythewood in the center. Did you guys ever talk a little bit more about that, or is that something that we, the town, can proceed with?
Yeah, we were hoping that the town could proceed with it. We were so late in the drawings and we were ready to bid it out, so there wasn't time to make that change.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
What's your time frame? Do you have an updated time frame on the project?
Yes, we actually sent out the notice to proceed this week to the contractor, and he normally has 10 days to get that back to us. And within 2 weeks of that, we'll have a pre-construction meeting, and then another 2 weeks after that, he could start work, potentially clearing and grubbing and doing things of that nature.
What's the estimated completion on the project?
It's a 2-year project.
As it sits, assuming no changes. It's always subject to change.
Yeah, there are going to be some changes.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You've done a great job of giving information, like Councilman Griffin said, and it's always good to put a picture with it so the citizen can see it. And then any advance notice, you always do a pretty good job of this, but if something's getting ready to happen, a lane's gonna close, as soon as we can get that out to the public.
Yeah. And we'll include you guys in on the pre-construction conference, letting you know when it is, if you want to attend or not.
Thank you, sir, again.
Thank you all for coming. Part 4 tonight, excuse me, action items, citizen testimony regarding action items as an item is presented. If you wish to speak, just let us know. Part A is a first reading, ordinance 2023.002, discussion and approval of an amendment to ordinance 2022.009, the fiscal 23 budget. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, we've had several changes and purchases and revenue, so all that needs to be captured in the current budget. So I've included that in your packet with notes, and I can go through each of these if you like to explain how I arrived at all these. So if you go on the first one is just reserve funds. So we purchased the property across McLean Road, and that's represented by that $245,783, which we paid in August 2022. And then also have included future payments for the land lease, which I will adjust based on our, we got a more accurate amount from, I think it'll be 957.3, but it's a different of about $5,000 or $6,000, so I can correct that for the second reading. And then below that is the state earmark, which we didn't know we were going to receive until after we'd approved the budget, but we received a $500,000 state earmark that was dedicated to the redoing the athletic fields. So that's what's represented there. Moving down, community events. This is just within the general fund, but council did approve funding to provide for the cost of Camp Discovery was hosting some NASA international folks coming here. They were planning to meet, I think, at the 1st of November, but they have put that off till April, I think. But anyway, it's in the budget, and just wanted to put that in there because council had approved it, and we talked about it being reflected in a budget amendment. Okay, number 3 is where it just gets a little bit, I need to clarify. So we received $250,000 that was in the current budget that was for security upgrades for the park. And part of that was to, at the time, we didn't have a lot of other security expenses. So I proposed, and you all approved the funds to be transferred to the state accommodations tax, which had paid for several more cameras and the gate. Well, since then, there's been a lot more need for other security expenses. So basically what this is a change to bring that, to not reimburse the state accommodations tax and then use that fund for additional security needs. And then, and I broke down on grant expenses because of the way that the earmark was described, it was for security and recreation. So the turf grass is part of this. So some of that $250,000 is to pay for the $157,217. That's the cost of the turf, the artificial turf. And then what you also see here is the $500,000 in the expenditure column. So that's where we will use, obviously we won't use all of that in this fiscal year, but just to keep it simple, I'll put it in here for now, and then we can deal with how much is left over in the next budget. And then you see that the transfer to state accommodations tax went to 0. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, then this is the expenditure for park and playground improvements, just to show that that's how we spent the funds to purchase the 4.5 acres across McLean Road. All right, getting to the Manor, Again, it's just kind of internal to the Manor fund. Well, no, it's actually part of the general fund now too, but we just have continued to, make improvements to the Manor that just with, having Christie here, we're just making improvements and that we didn't anticipate during the budget, but we added the quarter round on the floor and we pressure washed the Manor. And of course, making those little changes causes the contingency to change slightly just to reflect that. Then going down the Manor capital improvement plan. So what I think we allocated, I can't remember what the total amount was, but to go to the Manor, but it was all dedicated to capital outlays of the roof and the HVAC and flooring. It wasn't dedicated to anything that we were going to be spending right now. But again, as we find new ways to improve the Manor, we use these funds. And so I took some of that money from the capital outlay for the roof and the flooring, particularly since we just got a new floor, and dedicated that to, we have a new operating groom room downstairs, fully outfitted and ready to go. And it'll also includes repainting the Manor, which we'll get to later in the agenda. And then, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but we have these slope ADA sidewalks. I don't know if y'all walked before, but it was a big drop off before, but so it was a much needed improvement there, just the sidewalks out here, outside in front of the Manor. So I just included that as part of the Manor capital improvement plan. And then moving on, you'll see I had to make the adjustment on the SAT revenue to show that we were not bringing funds back in. And then, so the funds that we're going to be transferring to the restricted account for the lease of the property, one of those payments of that $257 would come out of the general fund and one out of the hospitality tax. So that's how we have that plan. So those are all the adjustments. Happy to answer any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Mr. Williamson, the only other, you're going to adjust that number one, I think it was number one, for the lease we just talked about, and then that would be a corresponding adjustment to number 9, correct?
Yeah. That's correct. And I'm also going to add a line to show the expenditure in the general fund.
Okay.
So, thank you.
No further, I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2023-002 on the first reading.
Second?
It's been probably motion seconded to approve first reading of ordinance 2023.002. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I would like to add is it's, Mr. Williamson, it's very easy to follow the way you lay these out.
Okay,
what
good.
accounts they're hitting, where they're hitting, and why. So I appreciate the way you lay it out.
You're good. Well, I appreciate the feedback. It makes sense to me dealing with it every day, but it may not make sense to everyone just picking it up and looking at it. So any feedback on that, I appreciate it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, the first reading passes. Part B is discussion and approval of an application to participate in the Municipal Association of South Carolina's Main Street Program. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anya and I have met with the Municipal Association that has this Main Street program, and we met with the manager. She came here and we walked around, drove around, and she got very familiar with Blythewood. And we see this as a great opportunity for Blythewood to improve the downtown commercial properties, particularly, as we've said in the strategic plan, trying to identify McNulty Street and on south to Creech Road, and then its eventual extension. We label that as the Main Street corridor to focus on. It gives us something we can make improvements on. And as the gentleman here from the penny transportation tax, if that project comes along, that road will look much different once that work is done. So this is just an entry level. They have lots of different levels, but this is just a 400, they call Friends level, and the description is in your packet. That just really kind of gets our foot in the door to start having the conversations, and because it is a challenge to identify where we want Main Street to be and to focus on. So I think it's just a first step, and there will be very helpful. There's a lot of municipalities that are participating in this. I get a lot of input and ideas from them by having Anya. She did already attend a one-day conference, and she'll continue to do that. And so we're just developing a foundation for making improvements. So we're just looking for approval to submit the application at the Friends level, which is a $400 cost.
All for comments.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Williamson, quick question. Exactly what is the TA, and that's technical assistance, I'm sorry. What does the TA look like? I mean, is it giving you and staff the ability to have conversations and to receive resources or help with?
I'll have to look and see how much of that is available at the Friends level, because I think some of that was not. You have to kind of put more investment in there to receive that, and we could look at that for the future. I don't have that in front of me. But the technical, I just know that they have a consultant to just advise on, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but they have someone to look at like wayfinding signage and to how easy is it for people to find the businesses in Blythewood or find the corridor. What exactly?
So,
I'm not sure I'm answering your question.
Yes, sir. So no, that's fine. So what I'm looking at is, we're joining. What are we getting back out of it? I'm cool with, being able to send staff for training in any of those categories.
Right.
Just looking at when I seen technical assistance, to me, and I'm thinking from a day-to-day job, TA is pretty much boots on ground, a consultant at hand, engineers available to help draw and basically build capacity. Because to me, I'm thinking capacity.
Right.
We don't have the capacity to actually draw up these nice visual prints of how we want a downtown, a Main Street corridor to look. So that's what I'm asking, like, if what level do we get that type of resource?
I don't believe that's at the Friends level. So this is just introductory. So that is when we have more invested in the program. But I guess my initial thinking was, since we have not participated in this before, let's just start here and then easily move up. But they're looking for a little more dedication from the town too. They're looking for a committee that's dedicated to this, and we just don't have that set up yet. So I didn't want to jump in with all the other things we have going on and commit to a project that we may not really be ready for. So I was thinking we could,
Yeah, that answer. So
Okay.
you basically gave me what I'm looking for. We're not technically ready for that next step
I don't
yet,
believe
but
so.
it's when we are, we can move up to that
Right.
next
I think
step.
this kind of gives us a foot in the door to make that happen.
Essentially a trial.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If there's no other comments, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Probably motion seconded to approve the application to participate in Municipal Association's Main Street program. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion's approved. Part C tonight, discussion and approval of a bid to repaint the exterior of Doco Manor. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In September, Town Council approved a bid to repaint Doco Manor and Doco Meadows Park Amphitheater. The winning bidder, Certa Pro, completed the work on the amphitheater but has not returned to repaint Doco Manor. Therefore, staff sought additional bids just for the manor. And you can see those bids there in your packet, but Best Price Home Repair is the lowest and most responsive bid. This will be paid for out of the capital improvement accounts for the manor and is reflected in the proposed budget amendment. So we recommend the council approve the bid from Best Price Home Repair and Renovations of $18,780 for the repainting of Doco Manor.
Any of these businesses local?
Well, Sawgrass Builders, I did not check the addresses of the other ones.
Mr. Williamson, question on CertaPro, did we compensate them for repainting the manor? Or was that
No.
an ancillary service and they just decided they didn't want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, we would not compensate them for doing it because they didn't do it.
Well, I didn't know if we paid them up front and then they
No,
just
we paid
didn't.
them for the amphitheater. We just paid them for that work.
Okay.
We didn't do it. Yeah, so they came, they did the amphitheater.
Okay.
But they already were saying they would come back later, and then they just didn't come back. So,
Okay.
yeah, we're good with them.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid for Best Price Home Repair.
Second.
Probably motion is seconded to award $18,780 to Best Price Home Repair and Renovations. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just out of curiosity, Mr. Williamson, what was CertaPro's bid for the manor? Do you remember?
It was low. It was really low. And it was, I mean, some of these were in the original, when I brought it to you originally,
Right.
but it was like 13,000 or something.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Hey.
The ayes have it, the motion is approved. Thank you. Part D tonight is a second reading, discussion and approval of ordinance 2023.001, amending section 30.05 and repealing section 30.12 of the Town of Blythewood Code of Ordinances, which provided rules for remote attendance by council members at town council meetings. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We don't have any changes to this ordinance since first reading.
Council member comments.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I was not here for the first reading, so I have a few points I would like to make before we proceed. I actually like the ordinance on the books as it's written. It allows all elected officials to participate in all meetings at all times. I'd like to go back and look at some of the instances where this ordinance was used. However, I will note that according to the records that I can find, it has actually never been used due to COVID, which was the original intent when passing this ordinance. These dates and these names can all be verified either in the minutes or on the videos on YouTube. On July 25th, 2022, Councilman Ballman was on vacation at the beach and attended the meeting remotely. I was glad to have him. On July 26th, 2021, myself and Councilman Griffin, Larry, attended remotely. I had a sick child, and unfortunately, Councilman Griffin had suffered a death in his family. And on July 20th, 2021, Mr. Mayor, you presided over a meeting, which I believe you were working remotely in Puerto Rico, for over 2.5 hours, participated in an executive session, and then voted in that meeting, actually in violation of this ordinance. So what I'm trying to figure out is, Mr. Mayor, you were allowed to participate, Councilman Ballman was allowed to participate, I was allowed to participate, Councilman Griffin was allowed to participate, and yet, last month, Councilman Sloan Griffin was not allowed to participate because he had not given 24 hours written notice to the clerk that he would be unavailable to attend. I find that very interesting that the one minority member of this council is not allowed to participate, yet the rest of us are. I can speak from personal knowledge that I did not send a 24-hour notice to the clerk for my attendance on July 26, 2021. I've asked Mr. Williamson for Mr. Mayor's, your notification 24 hours before the 20th of July in 2021. I have yet to receive a reply, and that was 3 weeks ago. I'm trying to figure out why this council doesn't allow everyone to play by the same set of rules. We have different rules for different people. And I think the ordinance, if it's designed for COVID, that's fine, but it's working because it allows elected officials to voice their opinion and have their votes heard and cast during these meetings. I don't think we should change it.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
Comment. So, to my colleague, Councilman Brock, thank him for bringing that up. I spoke on this in the last one, when I did send in a notice to the clerk to attend the meeting. And I stated that in the first one, but just not as explicit as he just did. And those, as I stated then, it does alarm me that we appear to be playing by different rules. And it's hurtful because we all took position to serve the people, and we all have a duty to God and family to keep the ball moving. I was aware of those 3 incidents that you just stated, Councilman Brock. There's in my workout mix, I was listening to someone that became one of my favorite artists, and he said this: "It's cool when they do it, it's a problem when I do it." And I get it. And that's exactly how I felt, because it became a problem when I sung it in. It wasn't that I'm on vacation. I was in response mode. We have to figure out how to play by the same rules, and we can't just cut people out, whether we agree or disagree with them. We have to figure out how to play by the same rules. And I'll be honest and very blunt, I know I may get some soft words, but words won't fix the way that I felt when that happened to me. Policy may fix it, but I'm sure that in second reading, just as the first reading, this will pass with no problem. But I will bring this up. What happens when, or if we're faced with an emergency and we all need to meet electronically? This did, as a caveat to COVID, give us that ability to conduct the town's business at a fraction of a minute or second if need be. So I'll question that, if it was, whether it was shots fired at me or other folks on this council, I will question the fact that this takes away the ability for us to conduct business at a minute's notice in case of any emergency or decisions you need, Mr. Mayor, Council, to attend to. Thank you.
Other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I might?
Please, Councilman McKenna.
Not disagreeing with Councilman Brock's statement of who used the current policy, when or how it was used. The only point I would like to add to that, those individuals joining all those meetings, because I too looked at them, would not have set council without a quorum. So if all those members who participated remotely were not available at a meeting that an ordinance was written for COVID, a quorum still would have been had and the town's business would have still been conducted.
Councilman Kendrick, you're right, but do you feel it's fair to exclude 20 to 40% of the voting body simply because of events beyond their control?
Prior to this ordinance being on the book, this town government functioned for a lot of years.
Prior to this ordinance, there was no COVID.
And COVID is going away.
It's debatable.
Well, you can debate it, but we're all here.
We are, and we are here most of the time. This isn't something that comes up very often.
And I'll be honest, I emailed the mayor about this 2 executive sessions ago because of my comfort level of receiving legal advice that involves and pertains to 2 members of council, with one of those members of council requesting to join just executive session remotely. And if we have a hard time trusting each other sitting at a table like this, how in the world can we trust each other to join remotely in an executive session when you're not there in person? So I totally agree with why the ordinance was written during COVID, through COVID. COVID's over. We don't need it. And again, none of the examples you gave would have left us without a quorum, which
That wasn't the point.
I think that is the point, in my opinion, just my opinion. So I appreciate the mayor and getting with the town administrator and getting this before us. Again, I'm the one that asked for it. And no ill will, but when you have 2 lawsuits hanging over your head and we're being updated on those lawsuits and you want to join remotely, that gives me pause. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And just brief comments just to correct some misinformation here tonight. We did have at least 1, maybe 2 meetings with Brian Cook where every single member was remote. You remember those? Every one of us was remote. So that technically is a violation of the adopted ordinance that we took from the county. So hearing here tonight is confusing, is cumbersome. Some people feel they're being discriminated against. And for that point of the record, Councilman Griffin missed that first meeting and no one knew where he was. The second meeting, when we find out that he wants to do remotely, we allowed it to happen. And then when he was asked about what he was doing, did you inform the clerk? He said no. And then he said, I guess I'll go. No one said get off the phone. He just said, well, I didn't do it. I guess I'll go now. So I just want to make sure we have the whole facts here before we start casting dispersions about minority status and other ridiculous comments. So since it's cumbersome and since it's confusing and since we can't seem to get it right and we have to correct our mistakes after the fact, then that's why we propose let's just remove it. Every council, since the history of Blythewood, when Blythewood was established as a municipality with a governing body, never had a remote ordinance. So how did they survive with emergencies? How did they make last-minute decisions when there was a crisis? They worked through it, and they got a quorum together, just like we will going forward. So I think it's unnecessary. It was established due to COVID protocol, and now we don't need it anymore, in my opinion. Other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to deny ordinance 2023.001.
Second.
I believe you have to make a motion in the affirmative, don't you, Pete?
There can be a motion made either way if that motion, if Councilman Brock's motion fails to get a majority vote, then an alternative motion can be made to approve the ordinance at that point.
Okay. It's been motioned.
Thank you, Mr. Pete.
It's been motioned and seconded to disapprove the second reading of ordinance 2023.001. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No.
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Ms. Durst, can you call the roll for the vote, please? Thank you.
Councilman McCurrick?
No.
Councilman Brock?
Yes.
Councilman Griffin?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
No.
Mayor Franklin?
No. The motion fails.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve second reading as written.
Second.
It's been probably motion and seconded to approve the second reading of ordinance 2023.001. Any discussion?
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, please, Ms. Durst.
Councilman McCurrick?
Yes.
Councilman Griffin?
No.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Councilman Brock?
Nope.
Mayor Franklin?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. We move tonight to open citizen comments. Any citizen wishing to speak? Mr. Bailey, how are you, sir?
How's the council this evening? Good evening. My name is Keith Bailey. I presently reside in Blythewood on 216 Maple Ridge Road. Just wanted to see what type of policy you had, Mayor, in terms of the environment. What steps or what policy in place to address what's going on with our environment? When I say environment, let me be more specific. In terms of conservation and natural and green space and things of that nature. So, do we have one?
Yes, have you read our vision and listened to our strategic plan?
No, could you
Yeah,
kind
so-
of,
So we've added 44 acres to the town of Blythewood to preserve it as a green and recreation space. We passed a zoning called trough zoning, which sets aside a zoning for private landowners who want to maintain a zoning where it has to be used for open space and recreation. It's called traditional recreation and open space zoning. We've done that. We've asked and had people under Councilman Brock's leadership, and you were there, where we actually planted trees in the park. We have a tree program that you can purchase a tree and have it dedicated to a deceased family member, someone you want to memorialize in the park. So we have that program available. Those are just a few of the things. I've asked the Garden Club to come up with a program where we would award winners. We'll dedicate public space, groups, nonprofits, families could come in as a group, enter the contest, beautify a certain space in the town, and receive awards and trophies and gift certificates and things like that. So that's in the works also. What do you recommend, Mr. Bailey?
glad you asked that question. I know on the 11th of May, we have a resolution that is Clean and Green Day in Blythewood. I mean, we did in the past. And that particular day, the citizens of Blythewood, and specifically the ROTC programs, will come out and clean along the highways. We also were the first municipality to have recharging stations for electric cars. So we saw this as a benefit. We say, okay, we'll start to bring electric cars here. And in addition to that, we'll save the environment. So, you know, those types of things. When in fact, we had buy-in. We had a golf cart, electric golf cart, that we used in the town. At that time, town wasn't quite as, let's say, fortunate in terms of resources and revenue. We only had one truck, one car, and on the media that says that there's been some dumping going on out on Swaggart Road and things of that nature. I think if we get some buy-in in the community, some of that stuff will stop. At least it gets some eyes on it. And in addition to that, perhaps we can address it, and those folks will actually take pride in that and get that stuff off or stop dumping that stuff. So, you know, those are just some of the areas that I was looking at. But, I mean, it appears that you're doing the right thing. One of the Clean and Green, we also used to plant as well, a lot of trees, and we had these tree ordinances as well to make sure we're just not cutting down trees indiscriminately. So,
Yes, sir.
all right. I was just wondering.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other citizens wishing to speak? All right, closes the open citizen comments. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been probably motion seconded to adjourn tonight. Any discussion?
Yep. Real
Please.
quick, Mr. Williamson, I believe it was at the last meeting, we authorized you to finalize the reports for all the hospitality and accommodations, final reports, is that correct?
To,
To close them out, to close out the reports, to receive the reports, and if they are,
yes,
if
yes.
they check the boxes, then you authorize the
Correct.
20% payment. Would
Yes.
you mind sending us copies of all those reports that have come in?
Oh, sure.
Since then?
Mhm.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, we're adjourned. Thank you all.